We do get other calls too, I should say. We get domestic violence, somebody who's in the midst of a domestic violence situation, suicide situation. We help somebody through labor on the phone with police and medical on one phone, a cell phone, and on the phone with the person calling. They were in labor in a park.
Welcome to Symplicity Conversations, where we highlight the stories of mission-driven leaders and the technology that helps them thrive. Today, I'm joined by two incredible team members from Heart of West Michigan United Way, Becki Postma, Chief Impact Officer, and Kevin Nelson, Director of Donor Development. We'll explore their journeys into nonprofit work, the evolving challenges of serving a community, and how technology, including long-standing partnership with Symplicity Communications, is helping them make a greater impact. So let's first start with the Symplicity Insights, our famous quote of the day. And this one comes from my favorite, Maya Angelou. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Isn't that perfect?
That's great.
I love that. Mm-hmm. So be sure to subscribe to Symplicity Conversations to hear more from leaders shaping the future of business, technology, and community. So Becki and Kevin, welcome.
Thank you.
To Symplicity Conversations.
I'm so excited to be here.
It's so fun. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about your stories. Can you share a little bit about how you've kind of came to the nonprofit field and what led you to your current role here at the United Way?
Sure, absolutely. So I was in banking for 25 years before I came to nonprofit. Started with Old Kent as a teller.
Wow.
You might know that as Fifth Third now.
Yeah.
And then just kind of worked my way up over the years in a lot of back office functions, support functions, process design, efficiency, standardization, you name it.
So important.
Really making life easier for people out in the branches was my goal.
Oh, cool.
And loved that and did that for a long time. And then once I had kids, I think my just thought process started changing a little bit. And I really started leaning into how can I make the community that they're going to grow up in a better place? What can I do there? And so I think it took about a year of just trying to explore and network and think about how that could look. And I knew I wanted to get into nonprofit, but I had no knowledge of nonprofit outside of donating and maybe volunteering. And then this job got posted at United Way. And it took my skills of this back office work and support and technology pieces, which is how we connected. We can talk more about that later. And then also it's the call center. And I had a call center when I was at the bank. So it took kind of all of my strengths and brought them to this nonprofit. And the leader there, Michelle Van Dyke, our CEO, and I had connected at the bank. And it just, the moment I walked in, I knew that it was a fit for me. And I've been there ever since. A little over 6 years,
Wow, that's fantastic. Fantastic. How about you, Kevin?
Yeah, mine was a little bit more linear. So far, I've been a lifelong nonprofit professional. Really, it actually started when I was really young. I didn't even realize it was a career at that point, but I helped start a nonprofit donation closet in my hometown. Wow. And so I think that I was always kind of destined to be in the nonprofit world, but I really got more accustomed to it at my alma mater. I got involved with university advancement. I ended up working for university advancement.
Oh, wow.
That led me into COVID, which I had a job offer elsewhere, kind of got rescinded, so I ended up in Grand Rapids.
Wow.
And I actually found my way to Heart of West Michigan United Way, and since then it's been empowerment and growth, and so I've been in my role now, this title since about January, but with the organization since the start of 2021. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Was there a moment that you realized that this was absolutely the right path for you? It sounds like when you walked in and said, "This is my job," but was there something that really made you stop and go, "I'm on the right track"?
I think for me, it truly was that moment walking in and just recognizing the culture there and the people and understanding the impact of what happens in community and how we can support community was really just eye-opening to me because, again, I hadn't been exposed to any of that.
Right.
And so I think that really understanding just the overall impact that we can have in a day-to-day basis is just fantastic.
Yeah. Similar for me, having the different experiences in philanthropy between the university and private education versus working for a human services nonprofit, I didn't realize that it took a little while, but starting to really see how United Way was showing up in the community during COVID, right? Where I kind of walked into the organization during kind of still the height of the pandemic.
Wow.
And I was so proud of how United Way was showing up at that time that I was like, okay, I think I'm on the right track. I get to help bring people into the fold of this mission that is doing critical work for people that are truthfully struggling. And that's only continued.
It's so interesting. When we are in high school, we're told to go to college and, pick your career and go. But, as I reflect on my journey, I have lots of chapters, lots of different career, moves and changes. And I think that's the true, like, what happens. I think it's rare that somebody is growing up in high school going, I want to be X, and then they just do that until they retire. That's not the norm. I feel like the norm is having, these different chapters and figuring that out. Let's talk a little bit about how United Way has such a strong local impact. And there's different, maybe tell a little bit about what United Way and the history is, because there's different chapters around, right?
I appreciate that question because, right, United Way has always evolved to meet the moment of our community. But what really hasn't changed over the years is our mission, right? We've always been about neighbors coming together to make sure everyone has what they need to thrive. So we were founded in 1917. Long before that, so there's storied history around what an organized society of charities look like. And just like the world that we're in today, philanthropy has evolved. And so decades ago, we were really known primarily as a community fundraiser, right? We pool workplace giving and collective impact, and we distribute those dollars to local nonprofits. That model worked when community needs, philanthropy, frankly, were simpler. And poverty today is interconnected when it comes to technology, but it comes to all of these factors: housing, healthcare, childcare, transportation. It's all linked. And so we've really evolved our role from a funder of nonprofits to a community builder, right? That can build and mobilize solutions to reduce poverty in Allegan, Kent, and Ottawa counties. Part of that evolvement, is that even a word? But part of that, growth has also been unifying the three counties that we now serve. So we've really taken our history, and as you look at it, whether it's the pandemic or different needs that our community has had over the years, United Way has continued to shift our skill set, similar to your career journey, right?
Yeah.
Shifting our career set, our skill set to say, how do we show up? Where does our community need us? And how do we strengthen not only the local nonprofit ecosystem, but the local business community too?
That's so cool. How rewarding. It's funny in technology. Sometimes we get stressed out if somebody's internet is out. And I kind of always say, it's not heart surgery, internet will come back. But, my staff is like, oh my God, they're having an issue, and, and I'm like, oh, but you guys, you are like heart surgery. It is like the impact you make on the people using your programs and helping. I think I'd be crying every day if I heard some of the stories that you guys, impact. I think recently we were helping with one of your eviction programs, and it's like, oh my gosh, to know somebody's losing their house and they have kids and you guys can swoop in and help. That is like, ugh.
Yeah, I always say what makes United Way really unique is that our model, we explain it now as a 3-part approach, right? Where we invest in proven high impact partners, we build where gaps exist, and we mobilize our partners to align efforts and make sure that we're kind of aligning around these shared goals. And it's really when you kind of have those 3 words, that invest, that build, that mobilize, you can really see the full picture of how United Way can and does show up in the community.
Wow.
So
I think that Grand Rapids has been hitting a lot of #1 places to live and lists, right? That we're in that really top area. So to be such an impactful nonprofit in a community like this that is known for giving, and when I'm taking people around that are not from Grand Rapids, and they're like, "Wow, this is really charming," I'm like, No, it really is. I said, there's some really amazing humans that have names on buildings, that give money, that helped change Grand Rapids. But I think what makes Grand Rapids special is that everyone has time, treasure, and talent. Some people have more treasure than others. So maybe you can't give money, but you can give time or talent. And I think that that's what makes Grand Rapids in the surrounding communities special, is that it could be any one of those things, but there is a level of giving. It's not just these dozen people that make a difference. It's
very true.
Everyday time, and how can we do that? And I think that's what I see. And there's so many amazing little nonprofits, but it's almost like, how do you find them? Like, if you have a need, how do you find them? So it sounds like you guys kind of, if we come to United Way, you guys have all these little underneath the hood like programs where you're making a difference.
I think we really pride ourselves on being able to look at individuals, companies, partners, and say, how do you want your community to look, right? And how do we help make that possible? And because we act as a convener, and Becki can speak to this, around our nonprofit partners. I mean, we partner with, even beyond funding, over 100 nonprofit partners within our region.
100 nonprofits.
Yes.
And there's so many more.
Right.
But it's, how can we help direct your efforts? And if we're not the stop for you, how do we help connect you to that solution?
I think there's a misconception of, like, United Way. I only knew it as, oh, you worked for an employer that gave you the ability to do out of your paycheck, you could give $1 or $5 or $10 or whatever you wanted. And it was this going into United Way.
Sure.
But there wasn't this, like, all of these programs that you're helping. So I think that that's the thing that I'm excited for people to understand, how the nonprofit community works and what the impact really is. And it takes so much on the operational side to make that work. So let's talk about that a little bit. What are some of the behind the scenes realities of, that people might not understand about running a nonprofit?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is, as a nonprofit, your goal is to get money into the hands of those who need it, or into programs that serve those who need it. So nonprofits run very lean, and you wear all hats, jack of all trades. It's one of those things like the job description, other duties as assigned.
Yes.
Everybody has other duties as assigned, and it may not be within scope. And I think that in the nonprofits sphere and at United Way, people are passionate about community. I mean, you can hear that in how both of us are talking. I think if you talk to any of our employees, you would hear the same thing in any other nonprofits. Like, they're in this work not for the money. They're in this work to have an impact and to make life better for people. And so I think to do that, you have to be willing to do whatever it takes and to step into some of those spaces that might make you a little uncomfortable. You think about our 211 team who's taking calls, like you mentioned, the eviction program. But 211 is taking calls all day long, and they have to step into that and just pour their souls into it, and then step away from it at night to be with families. And it's just, in my mind, it's that passion for community.
Wow.
And I think about, like, one day I could be dealing with a flood at the office, and the next day I could be on the news doing an interview. And that's just what it is. And I think that's part of the fun. For me, I don't want to speak for Kevin, but I like the unknown and the fire drills and the change and being able to step in and be nimble. I'm stealing one of Kevin's words, and be able to do what we have to do to help people quickly. And I think that's just really important and allows, the flexibility of having those other duties as assigned allows us to do that.
Well, the impact. I mean, at the end of the day, we deliver technology and we, make things easier for clients, but you have an impact. You are impacting people and multiple people it's the pride, that you must have, like, seeing, and not only that, the heartache when you see some of the stories, but wow, talk about mission,
Well, and the heartache is what right drives you in the morning
Yes.
to say, no, we have to do this.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll always say too, I still wake up after I'm coming up on 5 years and I'm still excited to come to work at United Way.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's not lost on any of us really, that we have a culture, that we have an organization, we have a mission that we can kind of pour into.
Wow.
But I will tell you that there are days where we are raking leaves and doing yard
Yes.
work all day long. And that is not either of our jobs really, but we all do it, right? Our entire team is throughout the community, showing up doing manual labor too. And whatever the job looks like that day, we have to help our community.
And isn't that what leaders at all levels of organizations, right? It's about rolling up your sleeve and what needs to be. It's not about, and I kind of joke about, I have people for that, right? But no, it's you've got to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do all the hard work.
I'll tell you, Becki is at every one of those manual labor things. So she's down there with you, yeah.
So nonprofits typically have to do more with less. So let's talk a little bit about the technology challenges that you face when you are trying to support your team and your mission. What are some of the things?
Yeah, I mean, that's how we connected, right? And I think back to when I started, and Kevin and I were talking about this the other day, like the paper timesheets and the time off requests that had to be physically signed by a manager and all this stuff. I mean, that was shocking to me, the lack of technology when I walked in coming from banking.
Right.
And so it's been a journey, to say the least, thinking through what that looks like. And again, we don't want money to go into technology if we can help it. So we're trying to be smart with our finances and recognize what opportunities exist to be able to make us more efficient and leverage technology. But at the same time, maybe it's not the Cadillac of technology that we're getting, but we're getting something that makes us better so that we can focus not on paper, filling out paper, but on community.
Yeah.
And we've been able to do a lot of that over the last number of years in partnership with you, and then some just as we've learned and grown and recognize that sometimes you spend a little bit on technology because it gets you that time savings.
Yeah.
It gets you people focused on the right thing. And those things end up ultimately balancing out.
Well, and I think what's happening these days, you need the data from the technology platforms so you can understand your impact and how you're communicating. We call it customer experience, but also the employee experience, like how people are working. Workflows, which you can understand with your background of how things flow. I think data and analytics of how you communicate with the community is your greatest asset.
Yeah.
You know, because you can learn things from that help you point to maybe a new program. You know, some of the things that we're getting into is probably going to give you a view of, we didn't realize people were asking for this because you never had the ability to see that data. And that's what's happening with some of the technology. And it's not as expensive as it used to be. It's really making it affordable. And, you know, there's some real exciting things. I kind of say that technology is sexy again. Are there any specific tools or systems that made a real difference helping you guys streamline communications or deliver impact?
I'll go first. I'm sure you have something to add too. I think our migration to the Teams phone system that you helped us with, really just Teams in general, has made us a lot more efficient. The ability to just message somebody really quick and get a response, the ability to collaborate, which kind of existed before, but nothing like it does today, has had a significant impact on us. I don't think we could have even guessed the impact that was going to have until we went live with it. That, in my mind, is probably the biggest one. And then just thinking through some of the other things on like the Ring Central implementation that we just went through, what our clients need and what makes it easy for them. So we're about what's making it easy and efficient for our team, but thinking about what's best for the people that we're serving and being able to find solutions for that has been really, really helpful too.
Yeah, it's exciting because we're just stepping into that and, you know, being able to provide texting at such a low cost, but yet that's the easiest way for your customers to get to you.
Yes.
But, you know, I think that what's what's even more exciting is what's coming. There's some really cool AI products that can be layered on there that really kind of help, because, one of the challenges is when people need you and you're not there, when you're closed. And so now we can start offering and working with those and teeing those up and so that's pretty, that's what gets me all excited. Those kind of things that make an impact. At the end of the day, you want to be able to bring more donors in, more money in that can help those people that need it. That's at the end of the day. So what are your thoughts on that, Kevin?
Yeah, right. We talk about internal communication, right? How do we drive efficiencies? But really the external, what you're kind of getting at with the donor data and understanding the importance of our systems talking to one another. It was something these last few years that being a nonprofit, right, we also don't have the biggest team.
Right.
And so there's very few of us that can kind of come between departments and cross collaborate and say, okay, we have an email marketing software. We have our 360, which is our CRM United Way database, which really operates our e-pledge campaigns and all of our giving. So it's like really the source of truth for all of our donor information.
Right.
And it's not a very widely used, right? It's very popular among United Ways because it operates in the way that United Way needs to. And so when you're working with platforms like MailChimp or JotForm and all these different marketing platforms, it's, okay, what can integrate?
Yes.
Because knowing that we have a smaller team, we also need things to be automated. And right, that sounds really high tech and complex, but if enough of us can spend time thinking about, okay, how do our technologies align so that communication's easier and so that we're having this feedback loop of data so that we can make better decisions, because again, it's about efficiency. And so if the investment in technology is the investment so that we can spend less time doing the manual work so that we can make better decisions and move more for our community, I think that's been a really big win these last few years now. And our CRM is communicating with our email marketing platform. It's communicating with our online giving platform. And so when all of those things are in sync, it makes my brain happy and it makes our marketing director very happy, but it also makes the organization stronger.
Yeah.
So that's been a big thing.
And I think what we're seeing over, on the horizon, those different platforms that you're using, it's really important to come together and integrate them all, because all of that, it gives you that data view. Because if you don't have access to the data, you don't know what the conversations are. And it's not possible for us to pour through those. You need AI to be able to say, here's what you missed. And I think that's the magic that's coming, that we'll be able to kind of pull that in. And to do that, sometimes at a cost savings is like, wow, we're bringing all of this, stuff to the table that can be a cost saving, but also just so valuable for the programs. So let's talk about a little bit of the programs. You've got more than 100 programs. So give me some of them. Tell me about them.
Yeah, I can take that. So I'll talk about a couple of our internal programs, and then also I can share just some of the great agencies that we fund. So internally, we have our Family Stability Program, which is the eviction prevention program that you mentioned, helping families with children here in Kent County. We also have 211, which is, 50 to 60,000 calls a year that we take from community members throughout 16 counties in the state. So it's not just in Kent County. However, I will say 49507, right in the city of Grand Rapids, is the highest calling zip code to 211 in the whole state.
So they can call 211 just like they could 911 or 411, right? So
yes.
211.
211.
And then is it suicide? What do you?
That's a great question. I should explain that a little bit. So it is for resources. So I am sleeping on the street tonight. Can you help me find shelter? I am in need of food. I'm looking for daycare. Do you have options? Think about anything that is a basic need for somebody in order to live. We have a huge database that we've been building probably over about 19 years now. That has all of these resources in it. So we're 24/7, 365, so that people have access to a live person that can help them navigate some of these really complex systems in our community.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an intense job, that's for sure. And we do get other calls too, I should say. We get domestic violence, somebody who's in the midst of a domestic violence situation, suicide situation. We help somebody through labor on the phone with police and medical on one phone, a cell phone, and on the phone with the person calling, they were in labor in a park.
Oh my God.
And so, I mean, you name it, we get the call.
I'm about tearing up
Yeah.
sitting here just talking about this. I can't
Yeah.
imagine being in it.
I
Not mentioning
can't
being on the
either.
other side of the phone, right? Like,
Yeah. Wow.
I think it's really important when we talk about data and technology is 211 as well, because, and we'll get to the other programs, but it informs so much of how we operate. Because imagine when we are having this incoming calls, we're tracking, right? What is the requested needs? What's being met? Where is there the opportunity to meet their need in this moment? And then what does that look like for unmet needs, right? And so, I mean, Becki will talk about this, but the unmet needs is really where we go, where are there gaps in the community? And is that because there's just not enough space in the program, or do the programs not exist? And that's what almost takes my brain and excites me, is that data to say, oh, wow, like this is like irrefutable, right? We see it right now.
We're getting requests. We have X number of requests for eviction help, you know?
It's exactly a great segue for eviction prevention
Right.
at our family stability program.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about we have the volunteer center. So people, you mentioned using your talent or your time. We run a volunteer center program for Kent County, Allegan, and Ottawa counties that you can go onto our website and find volunteer opportunities that fit you. So you may want to teach children how to read, and I might want to pack boxes of food. So there's all kinds of opportunities on our website for being able to do that. So people can just
go to the website, scroll and look for volunteer and say, I have 2 hours this weekend that I'd like to volunteer. And wow.
There's an online hub for Allegan, Kent, and Ottawa counties that says, here's every need within our nonprofit partners, right? It relies on the agencies and the volunteers showing up to post opportunities and then to volunteer. So it's this dependent situation that really works out really well.
So I think I mentioned before the podcast that we've been downloaded in 10 countries. So I thought my mom was the only one listening. but we're getting out there. So does every United Way, because there's regionally, do they all have the ability for you to go to the website and say, I want to volunteer? Is that like a standard?
I would not say that 100% of United Ways have that and have established it, but I would say that majority of them will have some opportunity for setting up volunteering and recognizing opportunities in the community.
Because I do hear that once in a while through, my networking and stuff, where it's like they don't have time to arrange a volunteer, but boy, they'd love to just show up and do something. So I would encourage listeners to check out your local United Way in your city you're in, and if you can't navigate the website, make a phone call and say, I've got time, treasure, or talent. Which one? All three, 2 out of 3, whatever, and see how you can apply it. Because our United Way here in Grand Rapids, if you're doing 100 programs and, there's things that you need, there's volunteers, there's things. So take this as an action item to how can you help? How can you make a difference right here? And if you don't know about United Way, take a minute to look and share it. The power of social media and sharing is so important. So look up your local United Way, share it on any platform that you have, and the ripple effect, you might make a difference. You might by your sharing might impact somebody else and they might give. We're into this GoFundMe, when you hear about something, you're scrolling on, one of the social sites and you see this thing that tugs at your heart and you give, $5 or whatever you give. Or if you're Taylor Swift, you give $100,000 to Leela. I don't know if you guys have been seeing that one, but I've been following her now because it's like I just came out as a Swiftie because of this new album, and I'm just loving it. And I'm like, my daughter's been a Swiftie for years, but and I just never knew like what it was about. And I listened to this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But she does that. She'll scroll through those GoFundMes, but gosh, that's. It's amazing the impact. So so 211
Volunteer Center, Eviction Prevention, and then I would say VITA, and then I'll be done with our internal program. So that's the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program.
Okay.
So free tax preparation for people that are making under a certain threshold. I believe it's around $65,000 in Allegan, Kent, and Ottawa. Last year alone, we had over $9 million that went back into our communities in tax credits and refunds.
Wow.
So a significant volume of state, federal, free. It's free. It's all volunteers who are preparing. We have over 200 volunteers that they're certified tax preparers, certified by the IRS.
Wow. Okay, this is going to be a little clip to cut out. We're going to push this out on social so that people can hear that, because if you can get a little more back, and how that's just such a confusing thing and then you go and you have to pay a couple $100 for somebody to do it.
Yeah, it is overwhelming.
But that's dollars right back into neighbors' pockets, right? Which stimulates the local economy, which is back. And a lot of the times, and Brenda, our program manager, will tell the story that the refunds that are coming back, to hear what the families are going to use it on, it's their basic needs. They're meeting their basic needs first.
Wow.
And it does warm your heart, right? Talking about crying, it's like, think about the impact of a program like that. And how overwhelming when it comes to tax credits, and how do you maximize tax credits so that you are getting the most you can back. Those are your dollars, right?
That's so
really
cool.
just putting them back in your pocket. So
yeah, it's great.
So you mentioned those are internal.
Those are all United Way run programs. So that's that. And then if we think about our external facing, we really work with partners in three primary areas. So healthy communities. So you think about like mental health, you think about healthy food, our youth opportunity, which is really around middle school and beyond, children in STEM subjects, post-secondary education, maybe training certifications, and then also just thinking about youth and trying to help them into adulthood, and thinking about belonging and what does that look like for them, and helping them gain confidence, and then finally financial security. So that's really that housing, that workforce development, transportation space. So those are the primary areas we fund in. So if you think about various partners throughout the community, nonprofits, when we're talking with nonprofits, those are the bucket. So maybe it's a community food club with their grocery store that we're helping partner with, or it might be, community rebuilders in the housing space, or those types of things. So we really vet the partners so that donors can be confident knowing that their dollars are going to partners that have been vetted, that are stable. We also partner with grassroots organizations that are startups. Through our opportunity initiative, so we will pull in these grassroots organizations, and for a year, we'll bring them through cohorts on how do you write a grant, how do you prepare your financials, and really helping them take it to the next level as a nonprofit. So those are a lot of startups. And so that's another way we get involved that maybe isn't programming per se, but it's helping them develop programs so that they can be up and running in the community and impacting those right in the neighborhoods where they live.
Wow, that's the ripple effect.
when you look at impact areas, like I think we talked about healthy community, youth opportunity, financial security, I love to explain it as, like we talked about earlier, how do you want your community to look? And if we have priorities within a financial security outcome of saying this is where we're going to invest within this bucket, that involves that entire three-part approach again that we talked about earlier, that invest, that build, that mobilize, because financial security can look like, again, we're investing in high-impact partners, then we build internally for an eviction prevention program or VITA, right, volunteer income tax assistance. That's our financial security bucket. But then we mobilize our volunteer center and other partners around those ideas so that not only are these programs working and putting value into the community, but it's driving the efforts forward so that we're actually creating progress. So when you give to United Way, you support all of those areas. But it also, if you want to designate and you want to give specifically through your workplace campaign or your payroll deduction, you can focus on an internal area instead of designating to just one nonprofit.
Wow.
You can say, I'd actually like my investment to go towards this focus, this impact, and then we can approach it in those three different ways.
Wow. So you've both been with this organization for 5 to 6 years. How have you seen it change or evolve over those, especially with COVID happening? What are some of the big changes?
I think there are a number of changes. So we were chatting about this a little bit yesterday, the day before. We were very tied to our seats before COVID. Everybody had a a PC. There was not laptops in our organization.
Yeah.
Everybody was hardwired. No one was able to be out in community doing work and partnering. I mean, the idea of a video conference. I mean, so much efficiency was gained during COVID. I think also just learning our ability to be nimble. I mean, and I think you're aware, we stood up the COVID vaccine hotline for the state of Michigan, brought in 100 temps within like 2.5 weeks, taking over 250,000 phone calls out of our United Way. And I mean, just you have to be nimble as a nonprofit. And I think that changed our mindset on a lot of things. I think we learned a lot from that. So now we have laptops and we're out in community all the time, where we work a hybrid work environment, but you come into our office and on one day you might see a full parking lot and the next day there may be one person in there. So we're just more visible, I think, than we were before. We were so focused, and I'll let Kevin speak to this, but so focused on campaign and workplace campaign and getting those payroll deductions prior to COVID. And I think COVID helped us realize even more than we were starting to realize that we can be so much more than a workplace campaign, both from a fundraising standpoint, but also engagement in community.
Yeah.
And because I started right during COVID, right, I didn't get a lot of that so I'm like, what do you mean I didn't have a laptop before? I'm like, when I started United Way, we were the new model. So it's kind of felt a little different from my perspective, just those 2 years. But when I look at how we engage, it's such a vast difference of how we're engaging our partners, how they're also proactively engaging with us, looking at United Way, because COVID was a time that we were able to respond and be a go-to for so many resources in the community and a fiduciary for a lot of that state and federal funding that was coming to our community here. But it's also looking at different ways that we can fundraise and that we can engage the community, because our mission, I think this is part of it, is how we talk about our mission has really changed. That's where I talk about this 3-part model. We understand that United Way is doing so much and has been showing up in so many different ways over the last 100 years, but it's making it really simple for you to understand what we do. What is the story of United Way? And when I hear United Way, what's the first thing I think of? Talked about this earlier. We will go from really, you used to think community fundraiser, we really need you to think community builder.
Yeah.
Right? How are we connecting? How are we not just raising funds, but then what happens after you invest in the mission? You're a part of something so much larger. And I think we do ourselves and our donors a disservice when we don't help them understand that.
Well, earlier this year, we had a fundraiser at our facility. And actually, that's when I chose to move into this facility on Monroe Center. That was one of the things I saw that, okay, we can host events, but I didn't have a concept to what they would be. And I remember getting the email, hey, saw that your announcements, can we host an event there? I'm like, absolutely.
Yes.
And so we hosted the Feminine Hygiene Drive. And it was a really cool event. And the concept of collecting all, and we actually, one of my staff members put it out on our social media, and people were sending her money so that we went out and bought product.
That.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so what we understood then was, wow. So we had people in different states give us money to say, here's $25, go buy some feminine hygiene products. And then the way I understand it is then these products are collected throughout this 6-month period or whatever it is. And then they take them out to these young preteen, teen girls who maybe are struggling with getting feminine hygiene products and even just, sometimes the medicine that you need to make it feel better. It's like, wow, this is a thing. And here we were. And so they already were like, can we host it here next year too? I'm like, anytime you want.
I love that.
Our doors are open because, again, we have the facility. And it comes with an hour parking, come on over. Let's use this. And this is how we can make that impact. So, if you have, a space, this is what you can think about is how can you make an impact, being able to offer that space.
Well, thank you for that.
No, I love it. I love it. So as we wrap up, I mean, geez, the time just flew by, didn't it?
It does.
What's one way people in the community can get involved and support your work today? I know we talked about the website, but what's one way?
There's a few ways, right? Starting with our website, right? You can find volunteerism, right? That's our volunteer hub. You can go to volunteerwestmi.org.
Okay.
And that's where you can find our online volunteer hub. Also navigating our initiatives on our website. We've really spent a lot of time this last year with our new messaging and really relaying out our website. I think that's really important because you can look at our each impact area and how we show up fully in that space, as I've talked about. You can also dive into each of the initiatives that we operate. And I think just a broader, better understanding of United Way in your community is really helpful. And then looking at your own pocketbook, but also your leadership within your company, right? I know we can do a lot by yourself, but we can do more together. And so if there is capacity or ideas, if you have a team, your department in your workplace wants to volunteer or wants to do a drive for one of these programs or one of these impact areas, reach out. Leaning into your local United Way, no matter where you're at, West Michigan and beyond, everyone benefits from a thriving United Way in their community.
I would also not just the company you work for, but your social network. So many of us have thousands of people on our LinkedIn network. And if you throw out, hey, if all of us gave $1 or $2, what that could be, and you could put it towards a particular topic. So make sure you're sharing things out with your network. If you can't give, no time, whatever, you can share on your network. And if you have a big network, push it out, because you never know where somebody might pick up on that and say, oh, I saw this being shared. So use the power of that network.
Absolutely. I think I would just also add that there's so much need in our community throughout the entire year. And I think sometimes we get focused in one space. If an event pops, it's like, oh, we gotta jump into this, or we see that on social, we see it in the media. And I think just remembering that year round, there are people in need in our communities and that are struggling to meet basic needs. And whether it's through volunteering, it's through monetary donations, whatever that looks like, we tend to see, trending around the holidays. Everybody loves to give. People have time off and they're able to give back. But I just encourage people to remember that poverty is a year-round thing. It's not seasonal. So that would just be what I would add to what Kevin mentioned.
That's so cool.
That's
right. That's right. Well, to learn more, visit thesimplepodcast.com. Follow us on LinkedIn. And subscribe on YouTube for more conversation at the heart of the purpose and progress. We will definitely make sure to share some links on our United Way. But if you're not local to Grand Rapids, look up your United Way and make a difference. So thank you for listening to Symplicity Conversations. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and head to thesimplepodcast.com and discover more stories about leaders making meaningful change. See you next time.